guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another live stream. Back to another live stream. Back
100 times?
to another live stream.
200 times?
Back
500 times?
Probably. Who is Jose Arteaga?
Jose Arteaga is a YouTube content creator with several channels focusing on different themes.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! Thing sucks!
His main channels include travel vlogs and lifestyle content. On his travel channel, Jose Arteaga Travels.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Additionally, he runs a cooking channel and engages in other personal projects that highlight his diverse interests and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects, project, projects, project, 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 project,
I am being viciously attacked with lies and smears. I think it's a disgrace, and I say that, and I say that. They're making me out to be a very mean, bad kind of a guy, and that's not me. What the hell is going on? They're sneaky, dirty rats. Really not a bad person, by the way. The American dream is dead. We're dying, we're dying. I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. The media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The whole thing is one big fix. One big fix. It's one big ugly lie. It's one big fix. The press can't write the kind of things they write, which are lies, lies, lies. Stories of fabrications and false. They write lies, they write false stories. They know they're false, it makes no difference. And frankly, our country is going to hell. I've always been thin-skinned. The tone is such hatred. I've been thin-skinned from day one. The tone is such hatred. I don't have thin skin. I have very strong, very thick skin. And I don't call it thin-skinned, I'm angry. I'm very angry. What do you have to lose by trying, Trump? What do you have to lose? Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
It's not illegal to not listen to music. It's illegal to be naked. What's the point in thinking I have a God that create my own language? You ain't been doing the education. You don't realize I'm so frustrated. People think a lot about my motivation. It's very like being a maniac. You ain't got the answer. You ain't got the answer. I have a condition called synesthesia, where I see sounds, I see them. It's racism's cousin. I see sounds. I could probably professional plastic surgeon. Only I would say the most influential person in footwear right now. Just talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old. The ultimate goal is to be like water. I see stuff from the future. I'm searching like a futurist. I wait too hard college. You ain't been to any education. I am the number one master back for the artist of a generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. I'm so frustrated. Walt Disney, Nike, Google. You ain't got the answers.
You ain't got the answers.
When you don't feel like playing with a cat, that's racism. It's like a bouncing ball in a room with 2 cats, or something that's racism.
What's up, guys? How's it going? And welcome back to another show, to another live stream. Today we're going to talk about why everything sucks, including, music these days. But everything, just everything. Why is everything so crappy these days? All right, why are people so crappy? Why is life so crappy? Why is Lambo not in frame? I mean, it's just one thing after the other, right?
Bruh.
Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. Hope you guys are ready to have some fun and enjoy. Well, what we got in store for today? What do we have in store for today's show? I don't know. Same as usual. We just turn on the camera. We pick some sort of random topic, and here we are. Ready to launch another show into the internet sphere, and hopefully something comes out of it. Hopefully we get a positive show, a good show. Either way, we're here. We're queer. Get used to it. All right. So, all right, guys. So, all right.
Bruh.
Yeah, and so I was just taking up a little extra time because it's storming out there. There's a lot of rains out there, and so I just wanted to make sure that I was able to transmit my signal good, because sometimes the rain can mess with the internet signal, especially when it's raining cats and dogs out there, and frogs and iguanas and flamingos, and we got all kinds of things flying around out there. So anyway, shout out to everyone out there, and welcome in to another show. So look, today, what prompted me to, create today's topic, or not create, but just, the title for today's show was simply because, yesterday me and Christian were out, and we were shopping. We went to the grocery store together, just to buy groceries, just like everybody else does, right? We're human, right? I think. And so, as we were, just going through our day, we're just going about our day, we started to quickly realize how much everything kind of sucks around us. Now, again, I don't like to use that word. I don't like to be so pessimistic. I like to be more optimistic, as opposed to, being so negative all the time. But the reality is that a lot of times, when you have to encounter life, when you have to encounter others, when you have to encounter just deal with society these days, a lot of times it tends to suck. It tends to remind you as to how much everything is just so miserable. Now, again, I live in Mexico, which is why I have the Mexican flag behind me. I have another channel talking about living in Mexico. And so life out here in Mexico is a lot better. It's 10 times, 100 times better than the life that a lot of people live in, the USA, Canada, whatever. It's a lot better than the life that a lot of people lead these days. And so for the most part, when we have a crappy day, by the way, I'm going to go through the day, I'm going to go through what happened at the grocery store in a second. But anyways, a lot of us, when we go through, I'm sorry, from my point of view, when I go through like a crappy day, or, have a, crappy situation, or things happen, it's a lot easier, for me, to deal with it, simply because, well, I had a really, really, really crappy life, dealing with all the crap that most of us deal with on a daily basis in the USA. So, coming, being out here in Mexico and dealing with a lot of those things, but just on a lesser extent, to a lesser level, it allows you to sit back and reflect, and sit back and kind of like really understand the kind of hell that a lot of people live through these days. Most people live in a really, hellish life. A lot of people are always talking about, oh, the apocalypse. The apocalypse is about to come. Oh, we're about to live in dystopia. It's like, I don't know what world you're living in, but for a lot of people out there already, they live dystopia. They live an apocalypse. Their life sucks, for lack of a better description. And a lot of it has to do with just everything around you sucking as well. And it's almost like it's systematic. It's almost as if it was done on purpose in order to demoralize you, to break you, to make you basically be in the mindset that, hey, it can't get any worse. I mean, things are bad, but hey, at least they're not as bad as the people that are in starving Africa or the people that are in another part of the world. And so for a lot of people out there, they get kind of brainwashed into thinking that no matter how bad it is, well, it could be worse. And the reality is that for a lot of people living in the USA or Canada or many parts of Europe, it's literally going to it's already worse. It's already bad. It's already dystopia. And it's only going to keep getting worse. There's no better coming anytime soon. And, for me, again, living out here in Mexico, I get to really, step back and take a look at what's really going on. Now, again, out here in Mexico, it's a first world country. It's a country like many countries around the world these days that are very similar, if not better, than, again, the USA, Canada, whatever. And so, but for a lot of people, they don't know. A lot of people out there, for example, they hear Mexico, they hear Panama, they hear Indonesia. I don't know. You just hear any other country, and you automatically think, oh, that is some third world shithole. As right, as Senor Trump likes to say, right? It's a shithole out there. They come from all these shithole countries or whatever, right? And so, for a lot of people, you just deal with all the crap that just keeps, basically snowballing and snowballing, because, well, you don't see a better option for yourself out there. You don't see like there's anything better out there at all. Period. End of story. And for example, like out here in Mexico, to a lesser degree, you see people that also suffer, and they have to deal with a lot of these things. So look, I'll give you an example. So what happened to us is that, well, yesterday, we woke up semi early in order to get a bunch of things done, run a bunch of errands. And, one of the errands that we had to run is that we had to go to the grocery store, buy groceries for the house, buy supplies, like everyone else does, and then just come back home. We have more chores to do. We had a lot of things that we had to do yesterday. And so as, we get to the store, as we're getting to the mall where the grocery store is at, we realize, I'm sorry, yeah, we start shopping and we start doing our thing and we realize, oh, okay, it doesn't seem like there's that many people out today. So this is good. We should be in and out, no problem. But that wasn't the case. Again, yeah, sure, we were able to do our shopping really quickly, but by the time that we got to the register to go pay, all of a sudden, the lines were, down the aisle. You know what I mean? The lines to pay, it was just insane. Now, again, I live in a place where we have hurricanes and we have, weather situations out here. So from time to time, let's say that we have like a storm coming or, again, a hurricane, right on the horizon. Well, a lot of people, they rush to the store in order to buy supplies last minute so that just in case, the power goes out, just in case the hurricane, turns or the storm turns out to be, a lot worse than people think. Well, at least they're prepared. They got water, they got food, they got supplies, and so on and so forth. And so when all of a sudden it was time for us to go pay yesterday, and we went to the line and we saw that the line was just as long as during those times when we have a hurricane or a storm out there, it was just like the beginning okay, of everything just, starting to sour because we're like, well, wait a minute, why are there so many people in line? There's no reason for there to be so many people in line. The grocery store has like 7,000 employees because it's not like in the USA where you might have a full Walmart with like 5 employees. Out here, they got a lot of employees. But all these employees are basically doing anything and everything except tending to the registers. And again, we know for most of us are already pretty well versed on all this. It's like it's all a corporate systematic system that does it on purpose. Okay, because again, if we were to show up a few hours later, then all of a sudden we have like 17 registers open and there's nobody there shopping. So why is it that during high volume, moments, let's say the grocery store, there's less people there to attend to you, and during other times when there's no volume, no one in the store, why are there tons of people, tons of registers open, and things like that? And again, this is the grocery store. That's not including all these other aspects of society and just life that most people have to deal with. So again, when we saw the long lines, I already saw Christian was starting to get frustrated, but for me, I was like, whatever. We'll just deal with it. It's not that big of a deal. Today, we're just running errands and we're just doing a few things around the house. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like we have a job to get to. It's not like I have to go back to, to the office. It's not like you got to go back to school or to class. It's, we have that freedom where, things like this are not really affecting our day to day. But then all of a sudden, you start, you're there, you're waiting in line, and you start to see, what's taking so long? Why is the line taking longer than usual? Why are there more and more people showing up? Why are there less and less employees every single day or every single minute, and so on and so forth? And you start thinking about all these other people, thinking it's like, man, these people have to get to work. Some of these people are on their lunch break, and they have like literally seconds to just, have eat their lunch, assuming they even get that time. Most of the time on their break, they're spending it in line with us. Again, for us, we just got to go home and do our thing. Other people, they still got to go back to work. They're not getting any kind of rest. They're not getting any kind of anything. Same, and it's just a systematic thing. Obviously, once we were there waiting for like about 45 minutes to finally pay, I'm able to pay, get in, get out, whatever. And then we start going outside and we start seeing, all the traffic. We start seeing all the kids. We start seeing everybody, just all over the place. And again, it's that time of the year, as you guys know, for, even if wherever you're at right now, it's that time of the year where all the kids are going back to school. We got tons of traffic, all the parents out there, they got less and less time to deal with the day-to-day things, and there's more stress, there's more everything, and it's just, one thing after the other. We got the holidays, approaching, and it's just one thing after the other. Again, not only do you got the holidays approaching, but then you're starting to figure out, oh my God, I need to make more money. I got to buy some gifts. I got the holiday dinners. I got the this. I got that. And it's just like one stressor after the other, after the other, after the other. On top of that, you spend your hard-earned money on buying something at the grocery store, and then all of a sudden, you might get home and, the thing, the can is bent or messed up. It's like, I can't eat this, man. Now I got to throw it away, or otherwise I'm going to get botulism. Or, all of a sudden, let's say that you buy anything, just some random thing. Let's say you buy a chair, you buy an umbrella, whatever it is, right? You buy it, you spend a lot of money because, again, everything is more expensive these days, no matter what country you're in. And then all of a sudden you're using your umbrella or you're sitting in your chair, and, within a week of you purchasing this thing, the chair is already broken. You already busted your ass. You spent so much money on that new chair. Now you got to deal with, that whole situation. Sometimes, depending on where you're at, you might be lucky enough where you can go get that chair, return the chair, get your money back, perhaps get another chair. But that's not the point. The point is that you bought the chair to use, you bought the umbrella to use, and all of a sudden now it's broken. And so now you got to go back. All right. And then you have to go and deal with the customer service again. You got to deal with the lines again. You got to deal with the whole situation again just to get your money back, assuming you can get your money back. Maybe get a new umbrella, a new chair, a new whatever it is that broke, and then hope and pray to God that this one lasts and that you don't have to deal with that again, and so on and so forth. It's just like one thing after the other. Everything that is everything that you buy today is crap. Everything breaks. Everything is low quality. When you call customer service, half the time you don't, not even half the time, 90% of the time, you don't even get a human anymore. You just get an automated machine. You get some sort of AI robot, whatever it is. Everything just is terrible. You're getting more taxes on your thing. You're losing more rights. You have less to complain. What is it? You have less of a platform to complain about these things from, because now everybody is basically yelling at you because why are you complaining? We're all in the same boat. It's crappy for everybody. And it's just like, and nothing ever gets fixed. All of a sudden now everyone is negative. Everyone is, fighting with each other. Now, people are fighting over, things that have nothing to do with your day-to-day life. And it's like, well, man, all I want is for this pothole to be fixed. All I want is for that when I buy a car, for it to last like it used to. I don't want to be going to the mechanic after I just bought this car a couple years ago and now I got to spend, an exorbitant amount of money just to fix XYZ, which should have already, not even been a problem with me purchasing a brand new car. And I can go on and on and on. It seems like the quality of life for most people these days are just getting worse and worse and worse. And the reality is that, well, yeah, I think by now, most people have realized that it's by design. Why is it, that everything just keeps getting worse and worse and nothing ever gets better and there are no solutions, for any of the problems. Right now we live in a world full of abundance. Right now in this world that we live in, we have warehouses, okay, all over the world, okay? Warehouses full of food, full of clothes, full of supplies, full of everything, but yet everyone out there is working more and more hours for less and less stuff. And, what's going on? Why is all this, why is this part of our lives these days? That's something that I think a lot of people just, don't understand. And each and every single day, it just keeps, getting worse and worse, as more and more people start to realize, how terrible things really are. And, by the way, real quick, because again, the weather is not so good out there right now, so I just want to make sure you guys are, the feed is coming through. I'm not sure if it is or not, but anyway, shout out to everyone out there. But yeah, I mean, it really is a sad state of affairs. And so, at least for me, one of the reasons I love living in Mexico, I love living abroad, I love living in another country, is because I don't have to deal with a lot of the insanity that is today's world. In my opinion, I think a lot of you guys already that, they're still living in the USA these days. You guys are already living in dystopia. You cannot say what you want to say. You can't even think what you want to think anymore without suffering consequences, to your actions, to your thoughts, to your opinion. So, all right, real quick, I'm going to read a few comments there. Jacob says, when it comes to entertainment, at least, I feel like the fact that we can listen to anything online for free, if you know where to go, the whole industry basically prioritize quantity over quality. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not even about that. Like I mean, today's world, there's tons of entertainment for all of us. Again, going back to bread and circus. I've talked about it many times before. I'm sure you've heard the term bread and circus. And so like in the USA, it's very hard to find people starving. Okay. Because even if I've seen bums on the street, addicted to meth, and they weigh more than I do. They're the big fat fucks. You know what I mean? So there's no lack of food per se. There's no lack of entertainment. There's no lack of drugs. There's no lack of all these things, to make you, basically continue with the status quo. look, I don't know where this stat comes from, but it comes from China. This is a very long time ago. History books. This is like 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. But look, long story short, back then during the dynasties, they made it known, in their books, in their history books, that simply put, the people in power will always be in power as long as the people have enough to eat and have enough entertainment. And again, this goes even beyond the Chinese dynasties, again, bread and circus, that's from Roman times and so on and so forth. But that's the thing. In order for change to really happen, in order for people to finally revolt, to finally have a revolution of, again, I'm not saying revolutions are good or anything like that. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It just depends, right, on who wins the revolution. But with that said, a lot of that, it's all really predetermined. It really just depends on you. I'm sorry, not you. It really depends on the country itself. If the country can provide enough food and enough entertainment for the people, well, they'll be able to do whatever they want. And so think about it. In the USA, in Canada, in Europe, whatever, but we're just talking mainly always about the USA these days here. But in the USA, for example, you don't have, there's no lack of entertainment. As Jacob said, you got tons of entertainment, okay? Whether you pay for the entertainment, or you get it for free online, it doesn't matter. But you get tons of entertainment. Whether it's movies, TV shows, you name it, sports, tons of sports, tons of things to argue about, right? When it comes to sports, and so on and so forth, right? Politics has turned into sports these days. Politics is also an entertainment venue more than anything else, because again, people out there that still believe, that, whether you're on the right or on the left or whatever it is, that it's going to really make a difference. I mean, come on. Those are the same people that, really think that wrestling is real. WWF wrestling is real. So look, all I'm saying is that there's no lack of entertainment, okay? And there's no lack of food. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how poor you are, you have access to food in the USA. Now, whether or not it's healthy, that's another story. But, you do have access to food. And so since most people have food and they got entertainment, well, that's plenty. That's enough. That's enough for them to deal with everything else. All right. But to me, it's like, why is it that we have, in the case of the USA, why is it that there are so many homeless people? Okay. And all these homeless people, they have access to everything. Think about it. They got all the drugs that they want. They get all the food that they want. They get a shelter, okay? Because whether they go to the actual shelter or they can pitch a tent on the side of the street in front of your house, it doesn't matter. But they have everything in a sense, except for one thing. The one thing that everyone really, really needs is an actual roof and an actual job, all right? And so, obviously it demoralizes so many people. I used to be part of the workforce in the USA. And again, I remember 15 years ago, many times, again, this is 15 years ago. I cannot even imagine today what it is like, in the USA. But again, back in the USA, back in the day, it was, and for a lot of people that were smart enough to realize, hey, I can get money from the government, whether it's through unemployment or on other means. There's a million programs out there for you to get money, and you get that money. And at the same time, you get to work under the table. You get to work a job for cash. You get to have your own little business. And then you're able to really kind of, make your way through society, kind of, sort of. You know what I mean? But what I was going to say is that for a lot of people, like, for example, sometimes I would just get my unemployment because, or get some sort of government help because I knew for a fact that, again, just doing the simple math, me waking up every single day, having to drive to work every single day, pay for my habits, okay, whether it was cigarettes, coffee, weed, alcohol, whatever it is, just to deal with my day. I have to, again, in the case of me, I was a chef, I was a cook. So I had to, do my own laundry, and that was, can get expensive because, you have to have your chef whites and all those. So anyways, long story short, when you start adding everything up, you're going to work for maybe like, $50 a week, if that, most of the times, you're at negative, you're working your ass off, you're busting your ass. And when you get your paycheck and you pay all your bills, you're at negative. And so if you stay at home and you get a check from the government, all right, or you work from home or whatever it is, then all of a sudden you don't have to pay for gasoline, you don't have to sit in traffic, you don't have to pay for all this laundry, you don't got to pay for, you know what I mean, like all of these things. And so that, I mean, we saw it during COVID that, again, we don't need everybody at the office. Many people can work from home, but why is it that they're denied, the ability to work from home? Why is it that just about every country around the world has free healthcare? Why is there no healthcare in the USA or very little access to healthcare in the USA? Why is it that they don't make any city walkable? Why is it? Why do they force you to be in the car? And I could go on and on. It's like, the more you start, analyzing everything, you start to realize, hey, wait a minute. Are they doing this on purpose? Are they creating a mini prison for us? And look, long story short, spoiler alert, they are. Most people are in a little mini prison and they don't know how to get out. In fact, even if they knew how to get out, they have no ability to do so. And again, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse each and every day. In fact, it gets to the point where, most of you guys realize that there's only like 3 real choices for most of you guys out there. Choice number 1, you're part of the workforce and you're just a wage slave with no life. All right. You just got to, again, the hamster wheel, you're just there, spinning the wheels, every single day, same thing, in and out, in and out. It's like, that alone can drive you crazy. But anyways, you're part of the workforce. So you're a work slave labor, whatever's a slave. What's the word I'm looking for? Wage slave, right? So you got that. Or, you can be a bum on the street, okay? And you're collecting all your money from the state. You got your drugs, your food, your everything, all your needs are taken care of, kind of, sort of. Or you're in a prison. And you go to prison, and in a prison, and you get a roof over your head. All right, you get 3 meals a day. You get exercise. You get sex. You get all kinds of things in prison. And again, you the only thing you have to do is do some free labor, right? Some work, right? You work like 17 hours a day for like a $3 paycheck. All right. So, but basically, it doesn't matter what path you choose. They're all kind of almost basically the same these days, in a weird way. And, obviously most people don't want to be in prison. Most people don't want to live on the street. So what do they end up doing? Well, they don't have a choice. They got to get a job or 2 jobs or 3 jobs, all right, just to make ends meet. And, being single makes it a lot more difficult because at least if you're with a partner, it doesn't matter, whether you're married or whatever, but you just have a partner. All right. Well, now you can split the bills with that partner, and that partner also has more than 1 job. And, hopefully with 3 or 4 jobs, it's plenty of money to at least pay the bills, to at least get through. Now, now all of a sudden you start having kids and you start, having things like, let's say, a pet or whatever, or other luxuries. Then before you know it, yeah, you're going to have to work 17 jobs, just to be able to support a normal life. In today's world. And again, dealing with everything that you got to deal with. Most people these days, they don't even make it home half the time, or they're paying rent, okay, in an apartment or a house, just to go take a shower and sleep there, and that's it. And you're paying like $2,000, $3,000, just for that, just for the privilege of not having to sleep in your car or sleeping on the side of the road or whatever. So, anyway, so yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like it is, a very, very dystopian world that most people are living in these days. And, the whole idea of social media, the whole idea of the internet and things like that doesn't necessarily make it easier, because at least back in the day, you were able to just put your head down, get to work. 45, 50 years later, you put up your head. Oh, time for retirement. Great. But these days, you put your head down like most people do, and you got your phone. And you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and you start seeing all kinds of people living their best lives, whether it's true or not. And well, now all of a sudden, for most people, they realize that, the life that they're living is pretty shitty, pretty crappy. And the whole idea that a lot of us grew up with, whether it was the boomers, Gen X, whatever, again, work hard and you'll be able to attain the things that you want. Well, that's not a thing anymore. It doesn't matter how hard you work. You're not going to be able to get anything. In fact, if you're working, you're not going to get anything ever. You know what I mean? You're just going to be just a cog, a wheel in the cog or whatever. What is it, like a cog in the machine, and that's it. And if you, all of a sudden, as if you as a cog in the machine are not working or acting appropriately, they're just going to switch your ass out, throw you in the garbage, and put in a new cog that will do what is supposed to be done or what needs to get done. And that's it. And, the whole idea of the immigration, all these immigrants, coming into the USA, Canada, whatever, they're there to replace you. They're there to do those jobs and do the things that you're not going to do or you don't want to do, because, well, you were promised something else, right? The American dream or whatever it is. So, that the thing is, it's like, yeah, and so obviously you don't even have to go to work for many of you people. Again, you know that you can just get some government help and you'll be making the same, all right, or maybe even more than if you were actually supposed to actually go out there and get a job. And so it basically imprisons you and makes you very hopeless that you can that there's even anything better on the horizon. And so for a lot of people, they know for a fact that in order for things to get better, well, things have to get worse first. And most people just don't want to even deal with it. They don't even want to think about that. They just want to keep the status quo at the very least, so they can at least, just kind of get through the day, get through the week, get through the year, get through retirement. And then, okay, yeah, we can have we can have the revolution once I'm retired, that kind of shit. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, you know what I mean? And so, and again, the reason that's never going to happen, any kind of change, is because things have to get bad enough, for there to be a change. And it's not, again, most people are, it's never going to be bad enough. Most people just keep lying to themselves. Most people live with that Stockholm syndrome where, again, it's just, it's like, it's not that bad. It could be worse. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. So, let me see. Jay Monsi says they want you to keep contributing to the system for as long as possible. A paycheck is like a drug. Exactly. Yeah. So that's the thing, that you're hooked. But again, think about it. I mean, who wouldn't be hooked, okay, to that drug of, hey, I want to live a normal life. I want to have a roof. I want to have a normal job. I want to have a family. Of course, everybody wants that. So they hook you with that, and they lie to you. They brainwash you into thinking that that's the only way you can do it. And not just that, but again, they keep passing all these laws and legislation and everything so that, for example, look, back in the day in the USA, you didn't have to go to work. You can just start your own business. But today, into today's USA, today's world, try starting your own business. See how well that goes. See how, see how easy that actually is. It's not. It's extremely difficult. And because they put all these barriers to entry, because they don't want you to have your own business. They don't want you to have autonomy. They don't want you to be free. They want you to be dependent on them. They want you to be dependent on the government. They want you to be dependent on the system. They want you to be dependent, period. All right. And so the more dependent you are, the less likely you're going to leave. So basically, most people these days, they're tied to their country like a kid that is born and they never cut the umbilical cord. For most people, you're afraid to cut the umbilical cord. And the longer you're there, the older you get, well, the less likely you're going to cut that umbilical cord because, well, they never taught you how to feed yourself. They never give you the tools or the ability to do it. So now all of a sudden you're cutting away that umbilical cord, that feeding tube or whatever. And now what? Now what are you going to do? So that's the thing. It's like they don't prepare you for success. They prepare you for failure. All right. And it's all part of the system. It's all part of how it all works. Because if all of us were, had the freedom to be individuals, to be able to do our own thing, to not have to subscribe to the system, to not have to participate in the system, well, then the system basically ceases to exist because, well, there's no one participating into that system. But if they create a system in which you are forced to participate, which you are forced to interact with, and you have no way out, well, then they got you. They got you. And that's why they also make it extremely difficult for you to, again, have, any semblance of freedom, like, again, starting your own business or moving out of the country or even working from home or whatever it is, because it's all part of that control system. Again, you know, the people in power right now, the people that have the most amount of money in the world right now, they keep making more and more money while you are making less and less money. Your dollar, your currency, whatever, is worth less and less each and every day, while for them, you know, they're worth more each and every day. And you think to yourself, well, why is it that these people that have billions of dollars that can basically give away 90% of their fortune and they're still the richest people in the world, and they can solve all these problems that the world has like that? Why don't they? Why is it that they keep accumulating and they keep taking away from us? Again, it goes back to that control, because every single penny that a billionaire makes, well, don't mean shit to them, because again, they get zillions of pennies, right? But every single penny that they take away from you, well, it really does affect you. It really does change a lot. All of a sudden, as they take more and more pennies away from you each and every day, which they do, because again, through inflation, every single year. Okay, so for example, the I don't know what I don't know what the real numbers are, but I know that inflation, for example, somewhere like real inflation, like actual real inflation, is somewhere like in the 7 to 8 to 10% ratio. Okay, so let's just keep it at 8%. Okay, 8% inflation every single year. Well, you know, the US dollar loses about the same or more every single year. Are you getting an 8% raise every year? No, you're not. Okay, so if inflation is going up 8% every year and your dollar that you make, okay, is losing 8% value every year, really inflation is 16%. So you see how things can get really expensive really quickly, all right? And is that going to go away anytime soon? No. Are you going to get a higher wage any day soon? No. And when you get a higher wage, is it going to keep up with inflation? Of course not. Not even anywhere remotely close to that, all right? And so that's, you know, another way. Again, inflation is an invisible tax, and that's how they really, you know, are able to control you, by taxing you, okay, constantly on everything. And the more you get taxed, well, the less money you have, and the less money you have, all right, the more you have to follow the rules, follow what society has laid out for you, because there's no way out. There's really no way to get out. Again, a lot of people don't know this, but you know, when you get your paycheck every single week and they take money out of your paycheck, okay, and then you do your taxes, you know, at the beginning of the year, what you're doing there is that what happens is that every single paycheck, okay, they overtax you. Yes, they do. Okay, this is a fact. Okay, so whenever you get your paycheck from wherever job you're working at, and they take your taxes out, they're overtaxing you. And when you do your taxes, okay, at the next year, you know, when you do your taxes and you get all this money back, that's your money. Okay, that's your money to begin with. What happens with taxes is that every single paycheck, when you're, you know, you get that money deducted from your paycheck, you're giving your country a loan. You're giving the U.S. government a loan. All right, you're letting them borrow that money, because we know that they don't have any money, right? Unfortunately, they're poor. I'm being, anyways, but you know what I mean. So anyways, so they take that money away from you, and then it's up to you to do your taxes. All right, and then they determine whether they're going to give you that money back or not. That money that you overpaid in taxes. That's it. That's what you're doing with your taxes. So when you have your own business, you're not paying taxes every paycheck. No, you do you have your business, you do your paperwork, and at the end of the year, you know, then you determine, all right, again, depending on, you know, what kind of business you're in and what you do, how much you owe in taxes, and then you pay those taxes. So you see the big difference right there? When you're working, they just take your money, and then you got to beg for that money back. And when you work for yourself, you don't have to pay any taxes, all right? And then once the end of the year comes along, they send you a bill, all right? Or, you know, you predetermine your own bill, right? And you pay those taxes. And again, if you know what you're doing, you don't even have to pay any taxes at all legally. Again, that's why so many corporations, so many companies out there, they don't pay any taxes at all legally, you know? And why is it that the more rules you follow, the better citizen you are, the more you get punished for it. Because again, if you're in a poverty level, okay, if you're living on the street, getting all these government benefits, you're not paying any taxes, right? Exactly. You're not paying any taxes, right? If you're in jail, you're not paying any taxes, right? If you're a billionaire, if you're a millionaire, if you got your own business or whatever, you're not paying any taxes. So who is it that pays the taxes? The middle class. And again, that's how they keep, again, keep you in your prison is through those taxes. All right. Because again, if any of us knew anything, about for example, just ask yourself this question, if we saw it during COVID and we saw it during the 2008 crash, that long story short, they can just print money out of thin air. All right. Some of you guys know how the system works. Some of you guys don't. I'm not going to bore you with all that. But look, long story short, the government, they can just print money out of thin air, and they do every day, every single second of the day, they're printing money out of thin air. And when you really look at the numbers, you quickly realize, hey, wait a minute, why are we even paying taxes? It doesn't matter. All the taxes that all U.S. citizens pay don't even make a drop in the bucket, all right, into the totality of what everything, as to how everything works. So why are we paying taxes? Why are we paying more and more taxes every single day? Well, it's again what I just explained, because the more you're paying in taxes, the more you're, shackled, by those chains. Well, the less freedom you got, the less choices you have, the less you got to complain about, because, again, I mean, you don't want to be saying too much. You want to make sure you behave. You need that job, don't you, Johnny? That kind of stuff. So, Lucy Q says, don't pay taxes and you won't get retirement pension when you're 62. It's a big problem I've seen many elderly expats run into. You make a good point, Lucy Q. But look, right now, I know gazillions of people out there. I'm sure you guys know a lot of people out there too that are retired right now. They're probably, they just got their retirement. And some people, they've worked their whole life, followed all the rules, did everything correctly, right? And now they're getting the Social Security, and the Social Security pension is like $850. Who the fuck can live on $850 in the USA? All right, let's say that you get a nicer, bigger Social Security check. So what are you getting? 1,200, 1,500 a month? How the fuck are you supposed to live off of that in the USA? You're not. You can't. So if most people in the USA getting their retirement right now, okay, cannot survive off of that, what, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. What hope does someone like me or someone like you have? I'm 44. Some of you guys might be older or younger. But again, think about it. What hope do I have that in 20 years, when I retire, that I'm going to get a Social Security check that's going to be enough to pay my bills? It's not. So you got to find the solution to, again, have your, to create your own retirement fund, your own retirement, okay? Or live your retirement right now and not rely on the government, not rely on them, to provide that retirement for you. It's as simple as that. So this is, I totally get it. I see it every day. I see how many people, doesn't matter what they did in life. At the end of the day, their retirement, their Social Security check, their pension is not enough. It's not enough right now. So whether they paid into it or not, no, even if they worked, they work from the age of 16 to 66 and they still don't got enough. All right. So, what hope does anyone, that's younger than that have? We don't have too much hope. So that, I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm not relying on no government help. I'm not relying on no Social Security check, when I retire. Are you kidding me? I don't even want to see what mine is, because I used to be a cook. Okay. I had a regular blue collar job and I wasn't making much in the USA no matter what. It wasn't until like my last several years as a chef, as a cook, that I started making some money. And even then it wasn't that much. It wasn't anything. So, you know, even if I would have remained a cook or a chef, you know, what's the most I was making a year? $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year. You know, that's before taxes. You know, so what am I gonna get? You know, nothing. You know, so that's the reality. Memo says, why not open up a restaurant? I've already discussed that a gazillion times over. In fact, if you want to know more about my career as a chef or a cook, you guys can check out the other videos on this channel where I go into story time and I tell you all about it. But I'm not interested in any of that. Now, again, knock on wood, I can keep doing the YouTube thing and I can keep doing this for a long time and I'm good to go. And I don't have to worry about, you know, having to, you know, go start an actual business. But again, knock on wood, nothing happens. But let's just say tomorrow I got no more YouTube, no more career when it comes to doing what I do. Well, it's okay. I'm in Mexico. I can literally start a restaurant. Again, I'm probably not going to start an actual restaurant because I don't have that much money, you know, for the startup cost, but I can sell hamburgers out of the front of my house. I can get a little cart and sell tacos, sandwiches, coffee, whatever it is. And I can eventually, you know, build that up so that I can have, you know, something to live off of. So I can't do that in the USA these days. Are you kidding me? So I wasn't able to do it back in the day. I can't imagine what it is these days. So that's a thing. You know, I mean, that's the reality of it. So Lucy Q says, my mom gets $1,600 per month pension and she was miserable in the USA. Couldn't afford to do anything. I convinced her to leave the country and now she lives like a queen. Yeah, there you go. But that's the thing though. You know, you got to remember that as things continue to progress, okay, for anyone out there in the audience that thinks that the U.S. empire is going to be around forever, that the dollar is going to be around forever, that, you know, again, everything that, you know, we hold dear, you know, or the world that we live in is going to be the same world that we're going to be living in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, like I said, I got a bridge to sell you. So I'm always thinking of the future in that sense. And the reality is that, yeah, you know, right now, your mom and many retirees, you know, they can live off that measly check in another country. But eventually, you know, the dollar is going to really lose all its value. And then what? You know, it doesn't matter how much money she gets, you know, that $1,600 or $800 or whatever she gets is not going to be worth much in Cambodia, in Mexico, in Lithuania, wherever the hell they are, you know, wherever you are. So that's the thing too, you know, for most people that are retired, they don't have many years left. Well, whatever, you know what I mean? They're just riding the wave and hoping to God that it all doesn't end before they, you know, bite the bucket or kick the bucket. But the reality is that, you know, for most people, you know, that's something that they take into account. Like I take that into account very heavily. You know, I earn in US dollars. I can easily earn in pesos. It really doesn't matter to me. I get paid by YouTube and YouTube pays me in whatever I want to get paid in. But the point is that, you know, I'm good because I make, you know, whatever I make, it just gets translated into whatever currency I want, okay? So I'm already protecting myself, all right? I've talked about it before on this channel and in other channel, you know, in the past, you know, talking about, hey, you got to diversify, you know, you got to do things like, you know, if you can, you know, buy a property, you know, so you don't have to worry about that later on. You know, you have a home, you know, once you're retired, for example. Another thing is, you know, diversify into buying, you know, physical assets, you know, such as gold, such as silver. Have you guys seen the price of gold and silver lately as the dollar keeps tanking? Have you seen the prices? They're in the stratosphere. You know, back in the day, I used to talk more about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever, but that's been hijacked. So that's, you know, whatever, you know, it's not necessarily a vehicle or a tool, you know, to hold your value or your wealth, you know, going forward. But the thing is that we're moving into a brand new world and brand new paradigm that most people don't even know is approaching. Most people don't even know it's right there, hitting them right in the face. All right. And most people are not getting prepared for that. You know, they just, you know, assume everything's just going to be hunky dory, but it's not. You know, again, we're moving into a world right now. Again, I've talked about it before in recent videos here. You know, I think a few weeks ago, a month ago, you know, back when the Trump Epstein file shit was going around. What was really happening behind the scenes is that while everybody was entertained, you know, by the Epstein file fiasco, they were signing things like the Genius Act and basically what they're doing is they're attaching the US dollar to a stable coin, a digital stable coin. And so I don't want to get too deep into all that right now, but all that's doing is that's giving more life to the dollar. But the dollar is still going to collapse. The dollar should be backed by gold or silver. We should be getting a brand new dollar, all right? Like we have in other points in our history, or, like it's happened in other empires or in other, again, in other in other moments in time in history where we've had a similar situation. And it might happen. Who knows? We might get that, but it's not happening anytime soon. They're still going to keep driving that dollar into the ground. And for anyone that for anyone that doesn't think that could happen, again, I really encourage you guys to pick up a history book, to go and search, other empires, to go and search, other currencies, how all this works, and you're going to quickly see. Again, you don't got to go that far. Look at what's happening. Look at the hyperinflation in Venezuela. Look at the hyperinflation that happens in Argentina every 10 years. Look at all these currency problems that a lot of countries have. All right, and again, a lot of people. The reason that you don't see that problem in the USA is because the US is the world reserve currency. But once the US stops becoming the world reserve currency, well, now we're going to have a real big problem. And I know a lot of people just, again, assume that the US is always going to have the world reserve currency. Is it? Are you sure about that? So, for example, when Memo is telling me, hey, I should start a restaurant, again, yeah, that would be a good idea. Because, for example, if I were to start a business here in Mexico, whatever it is I do, but all of a sudden now I am earning in the local currency. Okay, so I'm not tied to the dollar. I'm not tied to another currency. I'm not tied to a, again, at the umbilical cord, okay, of the US and the dollar or whatever it is. Okay, so it is what it is. So I mean, that's the thing. The reality is that a lot of people just have no idea what's really on the horizon. All right, let me see. Oh, okay. All right. I see you. Memo. I see you sent me a message. I'll read that when I get a chance. All right. Yeah. Well, I got a phone. We got technology these days. So I get the little notification here. All right. Yeah, I get tons of notifications. But if you just told me to send me an email, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can check it. I see it. So anyway, I'll respond to that when I'm done here, and we'll go from there. But let me read some comments real quick. Lucy Q says that that your mom wanted to move to Mexico, which is actually why you started watching me. Oh, cool. But I eventually convinced her to move where you are, and I love Southeast Asia. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Look, I'm dying to go visit Southeast Asia, and for sure, if we ever make it out there, which I hopefully we will, I'll hook. What is it? I'll get in contact with you, Luz CQ, so that way, hopefully, we can, you guys can, you can give me a tour of Cambodia, Thailand, or both. All right, so that'd be awesome. I definitely want to go visit out there. But for me, living out here, the reason I moved out here personally is because I speak Spanish. My parents are Cuban. Entonces, yo hablo español. Para mí, ese es mi primer idioma. So es mucho más fácil para mí venir para acá. So, what I said there is like, I speak Spanish. It's my culture. It's my whatever. So it was a lot easier for me to just move to Mexico and, everybody speaks my language here, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Do I have dual citizenship? I do not because, again, I was born in the USA. My parents are Cuban. I'm not Mexican. All right. So I don't have dual citizenship yet. Eventually, I will get my Mexican citizenship and all that, but that's, down the line, next year, hopefully. So. But yeah, that's the thing. Like the reason everything sucks these days is because it's all by design. It's all on purpose. If you listen or not listen or you read, a lot of the stuff that I forgot the guy's name. This guy that was like a big propaganda dude, for the USSR, for the Soviet Union back in the day. basically he called out exactly what's going on right now. Right now, what's really going on, I know a lot of people, they want to have all these conspiracy theories, the lizard people, or these people are doing magic spells on us, and that's why they got to tell us everything they're doing. And, in order for them to do these horrible things, they got to tell us about it and yada, yada, yada. Look, man, that's not really what's going on. What's going on, again, it's just all part of that Stockholm syndrome, part of the propaganda, part of the control of the population, is that right now we are so far, off of the deep end. We are already at the end of empire, at the end of the cycle. And at this point, what happens is that the people, the population is so demoralized that they're basically telling you exactly what they're doing. Again, in the case of the Epstein files, they're telling you what they're doing. They're not hiding it no more. It's in your face, and then there's nothing you can do about it. That's part of the demoralization. Again, everything that we're talking about here, again, most people know these things already, but there's nothing anyone can do about it. That's part of the demoralization. The fact that they want to let you know that they know that okay, that of everything that's going on, but they also want to let you know, all right, and remind you that there's nothing you're going to do about it, and not just nothing that you're going to do about it, nothing that anyone's going to do about it. So shut the hell up and get back to work and just be happy that you're getting your can of beans for dinner tonight. That kind of thing, all right? And so that's just the reality of it. You know what I mean? The reality of it is that this is why they cheat, they steal, they do all these horrible things right in front of your face. The government, the people in power, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing at all. It does not matter what at all. You can sit there and complain. You can sit there and cry about it all day long. But it's like, for example, look at what happened in Hawaii. Remember Hawaii burned down the other day, or a couple of years ago now, and Maui is still, devastated. Look at the hurricane that hit the Appalachian area. The hurricane that devastated, the Carolinas, that whole area. No one's cleaning that up. No one cares about that. Where's Kanye when you need him, right? Remember Kanye during Katrina? Bush hates black people, whatever. Anyways, but what I'm saying is that, things are just getting worse and worse and worse. Again, look at everything that, the Trump administration is doing. They're just doing whatever the hell they want. There's nothing you can do about it. When Biden was in power, same thing. When the next president goes into power, same thing. And again, it's all part of the control, because the more they let you know, okay, that they know that about what's going on, the more they can get away with it. Because it's like, again, think of the USA as your partner, okay? You're married to the USA, okay? And so basically right now they're cheating in front of you. They're bringing their dates to the house. They're sleeping, they're having sex right there on the couch while you and the kids are in the kitchen, making dinner. And you're not going to do anything about it. That's where we're at right now, okay? And that's demoralizing, all right? Beyond demoralizing. Because if you even try to do something about it, let's say you call the cops or try to get a divorce, you call the cops, you're probably going to get arrested. You try to get a divorce, you're not going to see the kids anymore. And I could go on and on. So yeah, that's the game plan, guys. That's really the way it is. And so look, for a lot of people, it's a hard pill to swallow. At least for me, for Lucy Q, and many of you guys out there that have already found a solution, which is to leave the country, all right, and just go to somewhere where you can have a higher quality of life in this horrible world that we're living in. Well, then again, we're some of the the few out there that have been able to, again, find a solution, survive, thrive, and be able to live a semblance of a regular life out there. Okay. Because we're not stuck. Okay. In that horrible situation anymore. For me, again, as I was explaining earlier, my parents are Cuban. They left communist Cuba. Before communism came to the island, things were pretty freaking good. All right, things were pretty awesome in Cuba. And then, well, the totalitarian, communist regime came in and it was all gone. And so in the USA, it's something similar has happened. All right, whether you want to call it an oligarchy, a technocracy, democracy, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. The same exact thing has happened. It's just a different brand name. It's a different, way of presenting it to you, but it's the same thing. One of the things that shocked me the most when I went to go visit Cuba was the fact that how similar life in Cuba was as to how life in the USA was these days. It's pretty crazy. So, it is what it is. That's the thing. And so like at this point, again, it's all part of the design. It's all part of the show. And so you're either in the show, you're either participating in it right now, which most of you guys are, or you've separated yourself from it. You've been able to disconnect. You've been able to cut the umbilical cord, and now you're watching from afar. And again, I make no bones about it. It was not easy to move to another country and start over. But again, in retrospect, man, it was a lot easier to leave the country, start over, and build a brand new life out here than it would have been to stay in the USA and continue trying to, make it work. All right, it was not going to work. It never worked. It's just broken. There was no, there was no real solution per se. You know what I mean? Or no real hope. All right, at all. And the longer I'm here in Mexico, the longer I'm outside of the country, the more I realize this. The more I realize that, yeah, man, the USA is going down the tubes, and again, it's not going to happen overnight. None of this has happened overnight, but it's happening, and it's speeding up, and it's getting a lot worse each and every day. Again, I know the USA is bad, but it's worse in Canada. It's worse in Europe, because I get tons of people from Canada and Europe that reach out to me all the time, and they tell me how much worse it is over there, and I believe it. But yeah, man, you know what I mean? This is not any good. And again, look, I don't want to say that Mexico's great and perfect. Mexico has its problems. I talk about it on my other channel. But at least out here, people have a lot more autonomy. Government is not powerful like it is in our home countries. People out here have a lot more of a semblance of the idea of the reality of what real freedom is. And they function most of the time without government, without any kind of authority to really impede on their day-to-day the way that they do in our home countries. So, out here, it's just like it's a different vibe and it's a different way of life, just like I'm sure it is in Cambodia, just like it is in other parts of the world. And so that's when you really start to realize, that's why they make it so difficult for you guys, to even visit other countries or even check out other countries. They make it scary, for you to even, check out another country, because they're afraid of what you're really going to find, that you're going to really find the freedom. You're going to find everything that you're going to find that your intuition was not wrong about the fact that everything in your life is shit, and that you can simply just live in another country and all of a sudden, you have a higher quality of life. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to digest, as you guys know. So, all right, I see some chats here real quick. But anyway, so yeah, exactly. The train crash in Palestine and all that stuff, so everything. It's just terrible. ING Autotech says, I'm stuck here with these greedy politicians. They want more and more without thinking the consequences. Again, it's all part of the plan. What do you mean consequences? This is the plan. Again, if you were listening to me the last hour, you know exactly what I mean. It's all on purpose. That's their job. Their job is to make your life worse, not to make it better. I know it's hard to comprehend that. It's a hard pill to swallow, but that's just the reality of it. ING says, I wish there was another planet to move to. There's no need to move to another planet. You can stay on this planet. I'm literally on the other side of the border, man. I didn't go to another planet. I just literally left. Okay? The USA. That's it. Okay? Yeah, like I said, I'm in the next country over. All right? I'm not in Cambodia like Luz. Shout out to Luz. I'm sorry, I keep picking Cambodia. Whatever. I don't know, because I think of Cambodia, and like I think most people do, and it's like, bro, that's literally butt fuck Egypt. You know, you're looking, you know, when you type into Google Maps, butt fuck Egypt, and you see Cambodia is right there. Sorry, it's just fucking with you, bro. You know? But it's like, you don't gotta go to butt fuck Egypt, man. You know, in fact, back in the day, you didn't even have to go to Mexico. You could just go to Canada, you know? But now Canada, you know, Canada, again, after COVID, you guys saw Canada's way worse. So, but yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, you don't got to go to another planet. I mean, think about it. I mean, for a lot of people moving to Mexico, moving to Cambodia, that might as well be another planet. And again, all the difficulties that come from moving to that other country, that other planet, right? Very, very, very difficult. So again, imagine having to move to Mars. How difficult it would actually be. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like, try to at least stay in the same planet, you know? So, no, but that's the thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, they make you so hopeless. They make the population so hopeless and so desperate that, you know, people think that way. It's like, oh, I wish there was another planet. Like, you don't got to go to another planet. You can just go to another country. There's like 200 of them to pick from. Literally. Now, granted, you know, like, it's not necessarily like it's going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult, but I mean, come on. It's not as hopeless. But what happens is that, you know, what does somebody say? And again, I'm not picking on you, ING Tech. Shout out to you, brother. You know, but the reason that someone might say, again, I get it. You know, I've been there. I've been where you've been. The reason you say it's like, oh, I wish I could go to another planet is because even you yourself, you understand that you're probably, you know, man, it's just, you're probably not going to leave the country. And so then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh man, I wish I could just go to another planet. You know, when you do say what you're going to say, you know, what you really feel, you put that, you know, again, your option as an impossible option. Like, oh, I wish I could just go to another planet. It's like, why? You know what I mean? Like, you know, make a real, what is it like? Put a real solution out there for your problem. Move to another country. Like, okay, for example, you might not want to move to Latin America or move to Cambodia because, again, if you move to Latin America, you got to speak Spanish. You move to Cambodia, you got to speak ching chong ching, whatever the fuck they speak over there, you know? So you're like, fuck, I want to just go somewhere where they speak English. Listen, man, you can go to freaking Belize. Belize is my neighbor. It takes like a 3-hour drive to get to Belize. They speak English there. You can move to Guyana. There's a bunch of countries, man, that speak English. All right? There's a bunch of places. You got to do that research. You got to put that work in. All right? There's solutions out there. All right? It's not going to be easy. I keep repeating that because that's the truth. But you got to ask yourself the question, what is going to be easier for you? To leave, start over somewhere else, or continue suffering where you're at right now? That's, again, most people don't ask those questions. All right? Or most people don't answer that, okay? When they do ask that question to themselves. So, ING Autotech says, just in case, you know, the reason you want to move to another planet is because just in case they start playing with nuclear weapons. They're not. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, all right? Because, look, how can they control all of us? Think about it. How do they control everybody these days? With the technology that we have, right? Meaning that, you know, again, they control us through the TV screen, the telephone, the internet, right? They control you through those mediums, right? Those ways. So all of a sudden they start dropping nuclear missiles everywhere. Well, then all of a sudden, all those communication, you know, all that stuff all these mediums that they use to propagandize you and control you, they're gone. So all of a sudden they lose that ability to control you. So is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. It would have happened already. All right. What's happening is the complete opposite. Okay. They're actually controlling you with fear. Okay. To the point where you're stuck on your phone more and more each and every day. You're watching more YouTube videos each and every day. You're stuck in that loop each and every day. And there's no hope. There's no hope for you. Because you're like, well, fuck it. You know, why am I going to change my life if they're going to drop a nuclear bomb tomorrow? Fuck it. Why am I going to give up sugar? Why am I going to move to another country? Why am I going to better my life? You know, I know as soon as I move to Mexico, they're going to drop a nuclear bomb in Merida. It's like, no, they're not. They're not. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, but I get it. I get it. I totally understand. Look, right now with a lot of fears in Mexico, Trump is going to invade Mexico. No, he's not. Again, out here in Merida, they just built a brand new consulate. Okay, they've always had an American consulate here, but they just built a brand new American consulate that's like the size of a mall. Same thing in Guadalajara. Same thing in other parts of the country. You know, why are they doing that? I thought we were going to go to war. I thought that we were going to invade. I thought that Mexico was going to. No, again, because all that is fake news. All that is not real. And the reality is that no, Mexico and the USA are getting closer and closer each and every day. You know what I mean? Now, again, you know, is it the same country? No, it's not. It's a completely different country. But are they going to nuke, or invade Mexico anytime soon? No, they're not. Are they going to nuke or invade any country in Latin America? Well, they might invade Venezuela, but they're definitely not going to nuke them. All right. Are they going to nuke, any place out there in Asia and the Middle East or in Europe? No, they're not. They would have done that already. You don't think that Israel, with everything that they're doing, they would have, come on, man. Come on. You know what I mean? They would have already nuked everybody around them. If they were, assuming that nukes are real and assuming that, they really do have the ability to just, push a button and boom. No, okay? It's a lot more complicated than that. And so we got to really, really assess the whole thing. And so, part of the control mechanism of that the people in power have is that they gotta what they'll do is they'll do what they're doing in Gaza or they're doing in other parts of the world right now where they're bombing these people back into the Stone Age, and then they show that to you, and then they basically again brainwash you into thinking, look, you better get with the program or that's going to be you next. Okay, so I mean, it's again, it's a lot of the prison, okay, the walls of the prison that most people are living in right now, those walls have been put up by you to protect yourself from what's out there. Okay, but a lot of the prison walls or the prison that most people are in these days are created by yourself, they're self-created. All right. And that's one of the things that I learned, and through all the things that I've been through is the fact that we are our own worst enemy. We get in our own way most of the time, and even though there are solutions to every problem out there, we're expecting others to put these plans into play. We're expecting others to fix the problems. We're expecting others to fix our own problems, and instead of just simply disconnecting and just living your life. If you travel outside of the USA, if you travel the world, and you quickly see how everything that's happening in the USA, Canada, Europe is just happening there. You in Cambodia, you know what I mean? And just like in Mexico, a lot of these insane things that are happening around the world have nothing to do with day-to-day life for most of the billions of people that are living around the world. You got to remember, there's like 8 or 9 billion people living on the planet. And, the USA, Canada, Europe, you put them all together, and they're probably like 1 billion. So where the hell are the other 7, 8 billion people? All right. And are they really connected, to all? No, they're not. I mean, come on, So, I mean, that's the thing, it's like once you get out of the USA, once you travel, once you see the world, once you're exposed to all these other things, that's when you really realize, oh, I've been lied to all this time. Oh, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like there is a better life out there. There is a better this. Anyways. And that's the thing. That's part of the reason that they keep you, they're not doing things, and I mean they are, but they're not keeping you from getting a passport and traveling, but they make everything extremely difficult for you to do so. All right? And they make it uncomfortable for you to do so. Like again, just like in the Truman Show. You remember in the Truman Show, every time that he was trying to, break through the matrix or just break through the show or whatever, that they kept doing all kinds of things, like creating traffic out of nowhere, not allowing him to get to the edge, all these things. And it's just like the same thing. They put a lot of barriers in front of you for you to get your passport, for you to travel, for you to this, for you to that. Then if you do end up traveling, they make sure that you stay into the safe travel zones. And then now if you go to Paris, Paris is more dangerous than New York, whatever it is. And so it's like most people are like, and then when you get back into the country, they start searching your phone. They start asking you 30 questions. They start going through all this. It's like, bro, it makes you not want to travel or leave ever again. So, and no, I know that they got bunkers, for the rich. And I know that they got all these nuclear bunkers and all these but look, those bunkers are not what we think they are. I don't think that they're nuclear bunkers, okay? I think that really those bunkers for the rich and powerful is so that eventually when the system does fail, because it will, it's only a matter of time. But in those areas where the system fails and the people don't know how to survive on their own, the people are going to start eating their own. So, for example, if the system were to fail in Mexico, the system were to fail in other countries out there, well, most people, they already know how to survive, without the internet, without power, without water, they can survive. They have, ways to survive. They can go hunting. There's a million ways to survive. In the USA, if you don't have the internet, you don't have power, you don't have water, you're not going to survive longer than a few hours. All right. And so, real soon, as soon as they turn off the lights, you're going to start seeing, it's going to turn into zombie land out there. Because nobody knows how to survive. Again, during COVID, people were killing each other over toilet paper, for crying out loud. I mean, come on. So that's the thing. Those bunkers are for that, for those idiots that, the powerful, rich idiots, because everybody thinks that just because you're rich and powerful, that you're the smartest person on earth. No, most of them are idiots. And some of these rich idiots, they might not have left, the US in time, when the shit hit the fan, and they're stuck there. So they got to go in their bunker. All right. So it is what it is. But anyways, I gotta get going. And Lou says, "A la verga, I gotta go do some work stuff. I'm out." All right, man. Don't worry. I'm leaving too. All right, I gotta get out of here too. But yeah, guys, it is what it is. All right. There's a reason why everything sucks. Okay, and you're not going crazy. It's just the way it is. It's all part of the plan. It's all the way the system works. Again, the system is not broken. The system is working as intended. There's nothing broken with it at all. All right, at all. All right, so everything is working as, the plan is going as planned or whatever. But anyways, all right, I'm also running on fumes here. I got to get going. I see the next storm is approaching, and I already see that, my levels are dropping here with the internet. So either way, we've already gone almost an hour and a half. We got to wrap it up at some point. So anyways, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's show, today's rant, today's talk, today's conversation. I appreciate it. You guys hanging out with me and joining me and also having some fun, having a discussion about this. And again, even though this is entertainment, I am really, not just on this channel, but in all the things that I do, I really do try to provide solutions to you guys so that you're not as hopeless or feel as, depressed or down on your situation as you usually do. Just trying to, again, provide some hope, some answers, some solutions, a path, for you guys out there that are so inclined, to eventually, once you have enough for you to, again, find your way out, assuming you still want to do that. So again, I know we're all different, so it is what it is. So, all right, guys, shout out to everyone out there. Again, thank you, ING Auto Tech, J Moons, Memo, Luz, who else was out there? We had a bunch of people in there. Anyway, sorry, I can't see. All right. Anyway, shout out to everyone out there. Love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. That's it. All right. So I love you guys. You already know the deal. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for hanging out with me. And I'll see you guys here next Thursday and every single Thursday. You already know we go live here sometime in the afternoon. So, all right. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.
establish a high bandwidth neural interface, then you're no longer a house cat.
Robots will be able to do everything better than us. Robots going down the street, killing people are definitely under stress. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization. I think we should be really concerned about AI. I'm definitely under stress. We're already a cyborg, buy a ticket and move to Mars. We are summoning a demon.
This song is dedicated to ING Auto Tech. Shout out to you.
We're already a cyborg, save up enough money to move to Mars. We are summoning a demon. We're dumber than we think we are. We are the aliens. Maybe they are among us. I don't know. Some people think I'm an alien.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another live stream. Back to another live stream. Back
100 times?
to another live stream.
200 times?
Back.
500 times?
Probably. Who is Jose Arteaga?
Jose Arteaga is a YouTube content creator with several channels focusing on different themes.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Thing sucks.
His main channels include travel vlogs and lifestyle content. On his travel channel, Jose Arteaga Travels.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Additionally, he runs a cooking channel and engages in other personal projects that highlight his diverse interests and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects and expertise. Projects.